evening and welcome to all of our guests here tonight. I'm going to start things off tonight. My name is Lauren Tilley and I am the Program and Research Librarian with the Orangeville Public Library. And I have the pleasure of welcoming you to the Black Authors, Black Voices organized event by Dufferin County Canadian Black Association and the Orangeville Public Library. We're excited to work with the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association to bring such a wonderful lineup of local talent for everyone to enjoy here this evening. This event is more than mere entertainment, though. Black Authors, Black Voices is a celebration of Black achievement and art in Dufferin County and a showcase for Black History Month. The library strives to foster a love of literacy and lifelong learning and aims to provide a variety of educational opportunities that embrace diverse thinking and promote inclusivity in all forms. As a learning and information organization in our community, it is important for the library to highlight the Black experience in Dufferin and help give visibility to the people and organizations that are creating change. Through collaboration with the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association, our organization continues to work towards equity, and the library is grateful for their partnership and guidance, not only during Black History Month, but throughout the year. Before we dive into the interview, I have the pleasure to introduce our two moderator hosts for this evening. Not only are these two individuals community champions, but both dabble in writing and are also published authors. So this is bound to be a dynamic discussion. Alethia O'Hara Stephenson is the founder and president of the Dufferin County Canadian Black Association since June 3rd, 2020. She is CEO of Alethia Enterprise, a small business consulting, coaching, and speaking business, and has been a business professional in the financial services industry with over 20 years of progressive leadership experience. Alethia is known for advocating for the needs of her community and amplifying the voices of marginalized and racialized individuals. She is the champion and lead on a number of initiatives, including the request to recognize Black History Month for the first time here in Dufferin County, which was unanimously approved by Council, along with the first Pan-African flag raising ceremony, the first Black History Month celebration in partnership with the Museum of Dufferin and students from Center Dufferin District High School's Youth Advisory Committee. For those who do not know, this event will take place again this year, and we encourage everyone to tune in for Black Heroes Past, Present, and Future, which is taking place this coming Sunday, February 27th at 1 p.m. And Alethia successfully presented a recommendation to Dufferin County Council to establish a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which was adopted. The library worked very closely with Alethia to make this event happen tonight, and we thank her for her generosity. Joining Alethia this evening is Steve Anderson. Steve is the Deputy Mayor for the town of Shelburne and a Regional Councillor for the County of Dufferin. In addition to these two roles that keep him busy, Steve is a senior practicing litigation lawyer with over 16 years of experience with the Toronto Transit Commission, where he has received a number of awards for his distinguished service. Steve has made history on a number of occasions by becoming the first Black lawyer hired by the TTC, becoming the first Black councillor in the town of Shelburne, and then by becoming the first Black deputy mayor for the town of Shelburne. Steve has extensive community experience that includes serving as the former vice president for the Ontario College of Kinesiology, board member for Community Care Access Centres, citizen appointment for the City of Brampton Task Force, board member for the County of Dufferin's Diversity Committee, and director for Defence Construction Canada. Regarding his personal accomplishments, Steve was proud to be named by the Toronto Star as one of the top 50 Jamaicans in the GTA, and equally proud of his acknowledgement from the House of Commons for his community service. Steve has recently added the title of author to his list of impressive accomplishments with the release of his book, Driven to Succeed. And now, without further ado, I hand it over to you, Steve, to introduce a few of our authors this evening.
Perfect, and thank you for the kind introduction, Lauren. Certainly no pressure after an introduction like that, but I think it's fair to say that people are not so much here to hear about us, but certainly about the fantastic lineup of authors that we have this evening. Before I get to their bios, I certainly want to once again thank the entire library staff and, of course, Alethia with DCCBA, Dufferin County Canadian Black Association, for making this event possible. And of course, I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. I could see a number of beautiful faces here to join the conversation, so we're very excited about that. And let me assure you, with the panelists that we have here, the authors that we have here, you're certainly in store for a fantastic session. So again, we really appreciate and welcome your presence. I firmly believe that we all have positive stories to tell that could serve to inspire and bring inspiration to others. And I also believe that it's important to also learn from the many diverse stories and voices that are out there. And that's why we are certainly grateful for the platform that we have this evening. So for the benefit of the audience, I just want to sort of outline the agenda for this evening. Alethia and I will ask all of the authors a similar question. The first question that we'll ask, rather, will be similar in nature. Then there will be a follow-up question that we'll ask that both Alethia and I will ask the authors based on what we took reading their respective books. After that, we will transition into a discussion of why it's important. This should be obvious, but we're going to have the discussion anyways, why it should be important to include Black voices in literature. And then if time permits, certainly we will have a Q&A session as you previously heard. So without further ado, let me get into the bio for our first author and panelist, Dorrett Homer. Dorrett Homer was born in Kingston, Jamaica, but immigrated to Canada over 40 years ago. In her early career years, she worked in finance and the social services sector. To update her professional skills and to further her career advancement, she studied part-time at York University and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Religious Studies. She also obtained her Bachelor of Education credential and is a licensed K-8 teacher with many years in the educational field. She is also, on top of that, an ordained minister and the author of her 2 children's book, very successful, I may add, children's book. First one being Hi, Miss Homer, and Compliments to My Mommy, both books which I have, in fact. Dorrett is committed to use her story to help individuals gain a better understanding of her physical disability, in addition to inspire children and adults living with a climb difference. Dorrett is the wife to her husband of 28 years and a mother of 2 adults and a teenager. She's also a proud grandmother to her 2-year-old grandson. And the next is Marcia Murdock. For almost 30 years, Marcia Murdock has worked in the Youth Justice Division of the Ministry of Children, Community, and Social Services. She has dedicated her life to advocating for and supporting youth in conflict with the law. For 10 years, she was a member of the ministry's Anti-Discrimination Systemic Change Committee, which identified and addressed systemic barriers faced by BIPOC in MCCSS. She's the author of Beyond the Shame, One Mother's Journey in Front of the Bars, a story of a mother's struggles when her child is in conflict with the law. She's currently the corporate lead for the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee within the 5 secure youth detention centers across the province and a member of the Hospice Dufferin Board of Directors. And with that, I'll turn it over to Alethia.
Perfect, Steve. Thank you. The first panelist that I'm going to introduce on my end will be Juli-Anne James. And Juli-Anne, I'm sure, is no stranger to the Dufferin County audience. I think she's affectionately known as the Queen of Streams Community Hub. But nevertheless, I will read your full bio because it is quite rich and it gives a full picture of the breadth of experience that you bring to the table. Juli-Anne is a senior communications consultant at a global wealth management firm. She holds a Bachelor of Commerce degree with special honors in marketing from York University. Born in Edmonton, Julia grew up in St. Lucia, where her family originates from. Her family has a long history in business and has tremendous success in business. Juli-Anne grew up working in the family business. She has always fully embraced the spirit of entrepreneurialism. Drawing on her experiences as a wife, a mother of 3, an all-around creative and senior communications consultant, she adds fresh perspective to everyday life situations. She is passionate about seeking wisdom for herself and others and helping to refine the mind and heart of a personal trainer would the body. Juli-Anne is the author of Everyday Wisdom, a 90-day devotional, and this is her first official printed material. She has also written and contributed to the works of local plays, entertainment websites, creative marketing material, online blogs, and so much more. Everyday Wisdom is a 90-day journey that will encourage the continual development of wisdom and faith in the life of the reader. The devotional is a collection of reflections highlighted with real-life stories. And last but not least, Juli-Anne is married to Andrew for 10 years and, of course, hails from the town of Shelburne. So welcome, Juli-Anne. The second bio is for Victoria Morgan. Victoria is, her book is called Dream, Destiny Fulfilled by Grace. Victoria Morgan is a lawyer, author, entrepreneur, and prophetic voice. She is called by God for such a time as this to transform and heal lives. And Victoria has had tremendous success in coaching and leading young women in particularly. Victoria is a visionary, a seer, and currently teaches the word of God at her local church. Victoria is bold and candid and inspiring. She helps to transform lives and has ushered individuals into their God-led purpose. Victoria holds a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology from York University and a Bachelor of Law from Coventry University in the UK. She also holds a Master of Laws from the University of Southern California. And the last time I checked, I'm not sure if this is still on track, but she was pursuing her PhD. So we might just touch on that a little bit later. So the PhD was in global leadership and change. So welcome, ladies, to the platform. I am so excited to have this conversation with you. And I'm going to jump right into the very first question. And I will pose the first question to you, Victoria. So if you can turn your camera on, that would be fantastic so we can see your lovely face. So dream, destiny fulfilled by grace. I love the dedication. The very first page I opened, you have a statement saying, a dream deferred is not a dream denied. Mm-hmm. That's a very powerful statement. And with that, I'd like you to elaborate on that and tell us the inspiration around dream, destiny fulfilled by grace.
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Alethia, thank you for this great opportunity this evening. A dream, when I say a dream deferred is not a dream denied, what that means is, for myself, I came from a background where it was all focused on education. So sometimes it seems as if I'm collecting these degrees, but that's how I was brought up. And there was a point in my life where I was unable to achieve that and to get to that point. And I went to university and had to stop university because, life happened and I wanted to pursue law so badly. And it seems as if it wasn't happening. And I, eventually got myself together and finished law school at 38 years old, believe it or not. I'm good with sharing my age. And that for me was something else. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter what your age is. It doesn't matter your circumstance in life. If you push hard enough and if you truly believe and have the faith, then I think anything is possible. I think you can achieve your goals and your dreams. So that's how it came about. You're mute.
Of course I'm on mute. Thank you so much, Victoria, for that. I had an epic statement prepared as well. Anyhow, thank you for sharing your nuggets, and we're going to dive into that a little bit later. I'm going to switch over to you, Juli-Anne, and looking at your book, Everyday Wisdom, a 90-day devotional. Again, you two dedicated this book to a loved one. You dedicated this to your husband, Andrew, who has been the driving force behind you. But what I really would like to know is, how was this book birthed? What was the driving force behind writing this book?
Well, thank you so much, and good evening, everyone. I have to say, after listening to all of those bios, I consider myself very blessed to be among these wonderful authors and these wonderful ladies. To answer your question, the book came about as a prompt and a challenge that I gave myself to post positive, encouraging messages on social media for a year. I found that social media was rife with a lot of negativity, and I wanted to do my part to make a small contribution in whatever way I could to make that a more positive environment. And at about 120 days into the journey of posting online, I just got the idea that, you know what, I have enough here for a 90-day devotional. And it was sort of, my husband challenged me. I think by nature, I'm the type of person who, you know, everyone has that one friend in their friend group who's always giving advice. And I am, I'm the one that everyone runs to for advice. And so I wanted to share these thought-provoking, encouraging messages in some way. And so I just decided that I'm going to compile it and put it in a book. One of the other driving forces for me was I am a mother of 3 daughters, and I thought, this is my love letter to them. After I'm gone, their grandchildren will pick up this book and say, my granny wrote this, and it'll contain wisdom for them for their everyday lives.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. Love letter to your children. I like that. Steve, I'm going to hand it over to you so you can ask your questions.
Thank you. You know, it's interesting when the comment that you just made really speaks to the importance of leaving a legacy. And that's what it's really all about. And I also appreciate you commenting on the bios. And the reason why we took the time to go through the individual bios, because Black history is about demonstrating and exhibiting Black excellence. And these women are more than just authors. And so it was very important to highlight exactly what they're doing to inspire others. And so I'm going to turn to Marcia first. And I'm going to also hold up her book, which I'm going to encourage you to get yourself. And let me tell you, straight up, like, you really don't know a person. I don't care if this person is even in your household. You really don't know a person until you read their autobiography. That's when you really, I've known Marcia for a bit. And when I read through her book, I was blown away. I'm like, is this another person? So when a person chooses to write their autobiography, that's when you're really going to know what they're really all about. So this is, and I don't mean this by any sense of an exaggeration, like, go and get your copy. This is a must read. It's an emotional roller coaster. And from one parent to another, Marcia, I certainly could relate to a lot of the themes, you know, as you talk about raising your son initially and the challenges with respect to that, the ups and downs, you know, questioning whether or not you're doing the right thing. And many of us as parents certainly could relate to that. But you chose to be very vulnerable in this situation in describing your story. And why was that?
I'm getting emotional even before I started, but thank you for that comment, Steve, and hello, everyone. The book was a therapeutic process for me. I started it as therapy for myself, looking into my life and why things turned out the way they did with my children, one in particular. And knowing that I had worked so hard with other children and other parents and kind of didn't see what was going on in my own backyard, as they say. So for me, it was therapy and just looking at, did I miss something as a parent, as an adult, and looking back at some of the trauma in my life, and did I deal with those things? Mental health issues, all of those things. It was I had to travel back in order to bring myself forward and actually see what was going on with me and with my children. So it wasn't something that was to be published. It was my son actually who encouraged me to publish it and said, you know what, Mom, there are a lot of parents out there asking the same questions that you're digging for answers for. And yes, it's my story, but there's a lot of parents out there with kids with the same story. So it wasn't meant to be published. It was my own journey and my own therapy. But I'm glad I did publish it because it led to me actually creating a group for parents to come together and speak about the issues and their journey with their own children. while they go through the justice system. And it also taught me a lesson that even though you're in it, you don't know, you still don't know. I worked in the justice system for 30 years. And when I was going through it, I realized how much I really didn't know still. So I can just imagine what other parents who don't have access to the information I had, what they're going through.
Thank you, Marcia, for sharing that. That's quite powerful. Steve is off mute now.
There
so
I am.
go ahead.
This happens when you're doing things on Microsoft Teams, it seems. And by the way, Marcia, thankfully you did write the book because not only was it a blessing to you, but certainly those who are going to pick up a copy and read it. And this allows me now to turn to my good friend. I had an opportunity to pick up her book right here in town. And I'm talking about none other than Dorrett Homer. And let me hold up her book. I have two of her books, but I want to hold up this one here because this one here is flying off the shelf. And let me just say, Dorrett, let me first take the opportunity to, as they would say, big you up with everybody here about your recent feature on Good Morning America. And for a budding Canadian author to be on a major US network, sharing your story. When I saw this on television, I was blown away. And it just goes to show you what you could achieve if you believe. No question about that. And it also demonstrates that, you know, many of us authors, we wonder to ourselves when we're writing, is anybody really going to care about our story? We're not Michelle Obama, Barack Obama. But what this shows for all of us is that our stories do matter and that it is there to be a blessing to the community. Now, with that major accomplishment, I always believe when you pick up an author's book, you could tell what's maybe in their mind when you read their dedication page. And so I read yours, of course, with the entire book. And your book sheds light intentionally, Dorrett, on those living with congenital disorders. Why was that important for you to shed that light and to write this book?
Thank you so much for having me tonight, and I'm so honored to be here. My book, I really wanted to write this book because growing up with a physical disability, you're not embraced many times. You're shunned, you're not seen as capable, you're not seen as in having, you know, intellectual, like you're stupid or you're dumb. People tend to define you by your disability. And so it was very important for me to write this book because I want to bring my story. I want my story wanted it to be authentic. I wanted it to be in a wide audience that people can see and people can recognize that there are people out there, even though they were born with a physical disability, that doesn't hamper them or stop them from achieving great things. It is so difficult to send a message across because with the stereotype behind someone with a disability, it is so stagnant. It is so much in the community that it's like you have to go beyond and beyond to prove yourself that you are more than capable of achieving your dreams and your goals. So I wrote this book because I just want my story to come to life. I want the more people see it, the more we talk about it, the more people will be able to embrace it. Hopefully they will embrace it and my story is about inclusion, it's about difference, it's about diversity, it's about embracing others that are different from you so that they can see that you are also capable of achieving and obtaining goals regardless of the disability that you were born with.
Let that sink in, folks. Let that sink in. With that, I will turn it over to Alethia to ask her second questions.
Thank you, Steve. And I have to comment that I'm hearing a common theme with all four of these panelists, right? At some point, they've had to overcome challenges. They've had to face various hurdles, and yet they persevered. They are here today to be able to share their stories. And that is a nice lineup into the follow-up question that I have for Victoria. And I have to say, even further to that, that reading both Victoria's and Juli-Anne's book. I don't know if it's divine intervention or if it's just purely prophetic, but I noticed that there's some very similar passages, similar books that were quoted, and I'm going to reference them in a second. But the specific question I have for you, Victoria, is on page 9, you wrote passionately about becoming pregnant unexpectedly with your third child while in law school in England. You had to face a number of challenges and obstacles, and you referenced the book of James. We'll touch on that later, but you had to face a number of challenges and obstacles. Can you share with us a little bit about that process and how you were able to overcome some of those challenges that you faced?
Absolutely. After wanting to go to law school so badly and getting that opportunity, then finding myself in a precarious situation that I put myself in. You have to get yourself out of it, right? As a mom, I figured I have to provide for my children, and this was always a lifelong dream of mine. So what I had to do was I had to work even harder. I had to stay up even a little bit later to help me get through that challenging time in my life. However, once I did have that child, there's just something in you that says, you know what, you've got to kind of slow down. Which I took a break and I kind of stepped back, took a year off law school, a year and a half off law school. Then once I think I took maybe about 4 years actually off law school. And at a point, my 4-year-old said to me, "Mommy, I'm okay now." No, he said, "Mommy, I'm a big boy now. You can go back to school." And with that being said, I hopped on a flight and I was out of here. And I went back to the UK and finished my my law degree, and bringing them with me. I even took them with me there because I was that determined, that committed to get this over and done with. And the struggle was real there again in law school, in a country that they didn't know, a place where they didn't know, and having to have them in school, going through school. You know, I'm at the library till midnight some nights. I'm having to rush back home, make dinner, and then head back, make sure they're in bed, then head back to the library. It was a challenge on its own, but I overcame because of my faith. I knew I was called for more. I knew I couldn't settle for just being a single mother. The statistics were not going to have me, and I was going to make a difference. And I didn't want to find myself in that box of being a single mother, non-educated Black single mother. So I wanted more for myself, and that was my drive. That was my driving force, knowing that if I made something out of my life, then I can look back at my 3 boys. We'll see a mother who was persistent, who persevered, and who overcame the challenges of life, because life will throw you challenges. But, you know, when life knocks you down, it's how you get back up. And as long as you know that you can get back up and you get up, then the world is your playing ground. You can do and accomplish your dreams and your goals.
I have chills. That is absolutely powerful. And that is a nice setup again into the other conversation that I'm going to have with Juli-Anne. But I have to comment that one thing that was also very common in both of your books, if you have a dream, write it down. So that is a very powerful message. Juli-Anne, I'm going to actually read, only because Victoria just ended on such a powerful note, I'm going to read the intro to the question that I wanted to ask you. The section is called Pressure Produces Diamonds. You are a diamond. That's the reason for the pressure. Don't rage against it. Don't faint because of it. Walk through it with your head lifted and your resolve even firmer than before. In the end, you will sparkle and shine like the gem that you are. If you could see and meet your future self, you would be so impressed. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
The question that I have to ask you for that is a powerful, powerful passage. But can you share a life example of a pressure or a pressure that you had to go through to be able to produce this material, to be able to be the diamond, the gem that you are today?
Oh, wow. I mean, I think that is a continual process. And I would say that my own life cycles through that many times over. I can think about a lot of instances, but even, as you mentioned in my bio, I was born in Edmonton, but I grew up in St. Lucia. So my entire life was spent in St. Lucia. When I was 19, I came back to Canada, and that was pressure because St. Lucia is a very different kettle of fish than this big metropolitan city that I moved to called Toronto. And let's just talk about snow versus sand, right? So, I was in a new environment, and learning how to navigate my way through that was particularly stressful for me. I grew up as a very sheltered. I'm the baby of the family. I have 4 siblings older than me. They did everything for me. They drove me everywhere, everywhere. And then I found myself here. I am an alumni of York University. I went to York University because, and Victoria alluded to this earlier, your education, the emphasis is on education. And I said to my parents, I want to be a journalist. And my dad said to me, medicine, accounting, or law. Those are your choices. All right. So I came to York University and I started in an accounting stream, and I made a mess of it because I'm not a numbers girl. I'm a words girl. And so even that process of coming to Canada and trying to pursue this education and trying to fit into a space that really was not me, it created a lot of pressure, and almost I would have labeled it at the time as disaster. I had to take a step back. I had to regroup. I had to focus on what was really important. I had to have the courage to say to my West Indian dad that, you know what, Dad, this is not for me. I'm going to change directions. And that's how I ended up in marketing. But even that process, I did not graduate until 12 years after the fact of pursuing my degree. I had to continue to knock at that door, very, very similar to Victoria. After having 3 kids, I had to go back, knock at that door, and actually pursue my sparkle and pursue my shine. So, that's that's where that comes from.
Absolutely powerful. And if anyone is listening, or for those of you who are listening, if you want to pursue higher education, if you want to pursue that business, if you want to change and do something else, you can. Don't let age be a factor. Don't let motherhood be a factor. Don't let because you're a husband or a wife or a disability be a factor. These ladies have just proven that if you have a dream, it's possible. So on that note, I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
Boy, let the church say amen. I could have just signed up after hearing Juli-Anne finish. Man, determination, resiliency. I mean, these are major themes that we're hearing throughout. But I also want to pick up on another major point that was mentioned, and I don't want anybody to lose this. And that is, there is a common thread amongst all of them that spoke thus far, and that is wanting to show their children and their loved ones around them as to what is possible. They were fighting for something, right? And the first place it should start with is your own family before it branches out anywhere else. And so kudos to you ladies for doing that. Let me turn to Dorrett. I'm going to change things. I'm going to start with you. As an educator, I know you appreciate this. So education, we know, brings enlightenment. It breaks down barriers. We talked about that. It also brings understanding. So sharing your story, could you speak to some of the experiences that you have had and some of the changes that you have seen since writing your book, Dorrett?
Well, since writing my book, my book was inspired because I had many students. While I'm in the school, they would approach me and they would come to me and they would ask, Miss Homer, what's wrong with you? Why is your arm like this? And so because of that, I decided to write the book as well. And so since I wrote the book, I had a book fair in Shelburne here. And so many of the people in the community have supported me. They have seen my story in the newspaper article. The students, some of the parents have purchased the books for the students as well. And so when I go into the classroom, they're like, Miss Homer, I read your book. And it is such a great, it's really, how should I put it? I am so honored to see parents and teachers behind my book. And so the changes are happening because the story is being told. Students are seeing someone that is not unlike them. There is not like them, it's different. And so parents want to get that message out as well to their children, that even though someone is different from you, they're capable. And so I've seen the changes in the students, how they feel that they're able to achieve and they feel like they're able to reach a goal. Especially you have a lot of students who may not even have a physical disability, but they have a learning disability. And so with a learning disability, sometimes you don't see that. And so, but you have to know the students to know that, understand that they have a learning disability. And so sometimes they kind of equate that with me. Like if I have a learning disability and I need the help, and Miss Homer is here who has a physical disability and she's passing on that information and that knowledge to me, I believe that I can achieve and I can accomplish my dreams and my goals. So I have seen the difference with the students. They're catching on. I see teachers, they're also embracing the fact that one of their colleagues have written a book, because the issue is teachers, they're underrepresented. A teacher with a physical disability, they're not really in the classroom. You don't see them in the classroom. So students, they don't have a role model, especially students with a physical disability. And so you have parents that are struggling with, what is my child gonna be? What occupation, what field will they enter in because of the disabilities that they have? And now seeing me, it's like it encouraged them. It encourages them to move on, to want to push their child that yes, you can also achieve and you can also accomplish.
Have we heard that one before, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And so we thank you for, again, being a trailblazer, and so that we could speak about those changes that are happening in the community, not only here, but certainly in Canada, as we in the United States as well, as we spoke about earlier. Let me transition to Marcia. Thank you again, Dorrett. All of us, I think it's fair to say, Marcia, experienced challenges and setbacks, disappointments in our lives. I think that goes without saying. And the pandemic has brought this to the forefront. And certainly reading your book, I talked about it being an emotional roller coaster. You know, you had your own sort of basket of turmoil, if I may put it that way. You know, you had a major car accident. You had people in your life that maybe should have been there more than they were. You certainly had some mental health issues that you openly discussed in the book, and being certainly vulnerable when it came to that. And yet, despite all these challenges, you're here and succeeding. What would you say to people who are currently struggling, in particular our youth, as to how to get through these challenging times?
I think I would say, be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, be vulnerable. And I think that is one thing that, as Black women in particular, we struggle with, because it's ingrained in us that we have to be better and stronger and work harder and look better and all of these things that are up here. And we're not allowed to be vulnerable. And I think it's very important for us to allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to look at ourselves not as others look at us, but as we want to see ourselves. And I think that's important for our youth as well. I tell them all the time, guys, and I work with kids in custody, and it's like, this is not your life. This is a speed bump in the road, and you are going to learn something from this that's going to push you further than you thought that you could ever go. And as long as you have that in your mind, you will be successful. And I think that's something that we just have to challenge ourselves every day. And we have to look at our possibilities every day and set our own bars, not allow others to set them for us. because we all know that the bars are going to be quite low because the expectations are low. So we need to go with our own, and we need to set our own bars, and we set them as high as possible. And I think that is how I pulled myself through all of that turmoil in my life, is by saying, this is not where I want to be. This is not who I am. I'm more. I want more. I'm going to do more. And again, as we all talked about our kids, it's for my children. And my lesson with my kids is, no matter what they do, they're still your kids. You can never let go of them, no matter what. And when they become involved in, when they, as I say, walk on the other side of the law, that's not when you let go. That's when you hold on. That's when you grab them and you drag them with you. And we tend to, and society tends to lead us to discard them. And, you know, yeah, oh, they're a write-off, just let them do their thing. And no, we can't do that. We can't do that. We all see it every day, and more so in media and on the news, what's happening with our Black men in particular. I'm terrified that I have boys and that they leave the house and I don't know where they are or what they're up to. And I'm sure, and every parent that I've since I wrote the book a few years ago, I've traveled across Ontario talking to different groups of people. And it's amazing how many parents come up to me and say, you know what, you're telling my story. You're telling my story. This is exactly what, and how do I hold on to my children? It's be there. That's all you can do. We can teach them certain things, but we can't make them do other things. And even when they make those mistakes, you still need to be there. You still need to be there, because that's how they are going to change, and that's how they're going to learn, and that's how they're going to raise their children. My son that I speak of in the book is now a father of two. And he now too is teaching his kids those lessons. And he looks back and he says, Mom, I don't believe that you went through all of this for me, or I put you through all of this, right? And I'm sorry. And for him to say that, I understand why certain things happened, or why you made certain decisions in regards to me. Now, as a parent, now for me, I answer the question to myself that, yeah, you know what? I did do a good job. I was worthy of being a parent, because that's one of the questions I try to answer in that book. Am I worthy, or was I worthy? And why did God choose me to be a parent? Not just once, but 3 times, right? But now I know, because I see it now. I see it in me and I see it in them.
Man, what else? What else could I say after hearing that? I mean, man, this is some real talk, ladies and gentlemen. It's especially for our youth, and I hope if they are not on now, that they'll certainly watch this later. We often look at the success and the finished product, and we think, man, I wish I could be like so and so. Look, they're so successful. But even with the success, there's trials and tribulations. And in order to get to the success, as you've heard already, there are obstacles and barriers, and sometimes lowered expectations. But as you said, Marcia, we can't live our lives of how other people perceive us. We have to live our lives the way we want to see ourselves. Time is upon us, and I hope that we could go over a little bit, because this is very exciting, and we should take advantage of the platform that we have. I do see that there are questions, but before we get to the questions, we're going to reserve some time, and I appreciate that. Alethia is going to take it to our last subject, and we're just going to ask the speakers to give sort of a brief response to the question that Alethia is going to start off with. Alethia, please go ahead.
Perfect, thank you. The last question I'm going to ask, and it's going to be posed to each of the panelists, and if you can just be brief, as Steve mentioned. The question is, what is the importance of Black voices in literature, and why is it important to celebrate your work during not just Black History Month, but all year round? I'll start with you, Victoria.
Absolutely. It's important for Black voices to be in literature, because it shows others that what we can do and what we are able to accomplish. And where it comes to my book, I believe that my book is there to help others to achieve their goals, achieve their dreams, to empower, uplift, and encourage others, that it doesn't matter what age, where you are in life, what you want and what you desire, what you believe you can achieve.
Powerful. Juli-Anne.
Yeah, my book is about wisdom, and it's about wisdom that's derived from my personal experience as a Black woman. And I think to exclude Black voices means that there's a facet of wisdom in this case that the world doesn't have access to because it's not available and it's not there to be shared. So I think that's why it's important, because it's a unique perspective on a shared collective life experience.
Powerful. And if we failed to mention it earlier, for those who are listening, each of the authors' books will be in the Orangeville Public Library. And of course, the link to each of their website, I believe, was shared earlier. So make sure that you pick up copies of these amazing books. They're absolutely powerful. Over to you, Marcia, same question. What is the importance of Black voices in literature, and why is it important to celebrate your work, not just during Black History Month, but all year round?
Oh, I think it's important to break down stereotypes and to look at the history and to look at the generational trauma that we all carry and how it affects our lives today and how it drives us to change today and moving forward, and how it drives us to teach our children what we weren't taught. Our stories are happening every day. It's not just happening during the month of February. We are always creating, we are always succeeding, we are always developing new stories, dealing with new traumas, overcoming new barriers. And that's a 365 days a year. So that is why it's important to continue to share our stories and hear our voices. And as they say, when you have something, write it down. So what's the best way to share it is in writing, because that's forever.
That.
That's forever.
Absolutely love that. Dorrett, over to you. Same question.
She's on mute.
You're on mute, Dorrett.
Sorry. So it is important to highlight and appreciate Black achievements because we have such a rich culture. And if we go back to our culture, to African civilization, the culture is rich. I know we might want to start with slavery and what took place and how we're here right now. But if we can go way back to our ancestors, that culture is rich in science, rich in art, rich in culture, rich in music, rich in so many different areas of life. And so it is so important that we continue to tell our story, because you know what, when we tell our story, we go back to our humble beginnings, where we started from. And so our children can learn. And so when they learn and they see, they're not just hearing about slavery, what took place. Yes, we understand that slavery took place, but they will also understand, like, here are some Black women, here are some Black men that did great and marvelous things. And so I just see it as a confidence booster for the next generation coming up behind us. They will have that confidence to say, yes, I can do it. We can achieve. I can be the doctor. I can be the scientist. I can be the lawyer that I want to be. So I think it's just such a great thing that we're doing, that they can be an extension of what we are doing.
Love that.
Applause, applause, applause. And I love, Dorrett, that you talked about knowing your history. I'm sure when I mentioned this very quickly before we take the questions is, I went and watched Black Panther when it came out, and I'm sure many of you did as well. And it was a reflection of the richness of our history. And I remember I went and took my children, and I wrote on social media after I left the movie that I walked in 6'3", that's how tall I am, and then I left 10 foot tall, because I felt a sense of pride, a sense of honor as to who we really are as a people and what we're capable of. And so this whole platform is just another reminder of what we are capable of, and which is Black excellence. And so we have some questions.
Steve, if I might interrupt just before we do that, I think We owe you all a round of applause. That was amazing. Thank you. And you're right, someone does have their hand up. I believe it's Norma. So Norma, if you'd like to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question, by all means.
Thank you for this opportunity. I am so humbled to be engaged with this forum tonight. Thank you, Steve Anderson. I've read your book, and I want to get copies of each book, but I don't live in Shelburne. So when you're sending the recording out, could you please add where we could purchase the book? Would you do that for your listeners? And Marcia, if I could get your book in my hand, I would read it tonight. I have a short history of working with incarcerated youth, and the book I'm now writing is Traumatization of the Black Incarcerated Youth. And I've written 2 other books, so I just thank you. I'm so excited. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for your question, Norma.
And we will definitely follow up in an email with everyone that registered with the link to the recording and the links to all of our authors here so you can purchase books. Also, stay on the line a bit longer, and we're going to raffle off a book for each of the authors to our audience members here. So you might be lucky, Norma.
I see Penny Cromwell has a question as well.
Hello, everyone. Don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so first I'd like to say this is amazing. And I have known Miss Murdock for umpteen years. We won't say how long, because then that will definitely age us. I also want to shout out that she hasn't mentioned throughout all of her struggles that she's also been inducted into the DJ Stylist Hall of Fame for being one of the first female DJs in Canada. She humbly doesn't say that as a part of the Kilowatts DJ group. My question is to everybody. To media, they're heavy now. It's so hard and heavy, hard-coded on inclusion and diversity. Inclusion and diversity. We want to make sure that we include everybody. Inclusion and diversity. What does, when you're speaking to your children or when you're speaking to your peers, what does inclusion and diversity mean to you? Do you look at them separately? Because it's being heavily pushed to be more diversified in organizations and companies and so forth. So what does that mean to you?
Diversity and inclusion are not the same thing as far as I see it. Diversity is our differences and our similarities. Inclusion means that you are welcome at the table. So you may have a diverse group of people in a setting, but if I am not welcome at the table, as in my comments, my experiences, my suggestions, that's not inclusion, right? So you can be diverse or you can show diversity and still not be inclusive. So I think it's important to know the difference between the two and how you tie the two together. So you cannot invite me to the table if you're giving me a gag when I sit there, right? That's my take on it anyways, and that's how I view it. And that's how I live my life, and that's how I expect people to treat me. Don't invite me to the table if I can't talk. Because I'm not going to be, I'm not your token anything, right? And if you're sticking to diversity, you're looking for, lack of a better word or term, you're looking for tokens. No, we need to be inclusive and diverse at the same time.
So Marcia, I've got to drop, I got to say this, mic drop. Next.
Don't say anything.
If I can add to that, I definitely agree with you, Ms. Murdock. We have to understand the difference. And when we look at diversity, we're looking at your uniqueness. When you come to the table, you should be able to accept my uniqueness, what makes me different, what makes me similar, the thing that stands out about me, and that should be embraced, not shunned, not looked down on, but be embraced. And if you can see me as the unique person, the authentic person, the unique person that I am, then that should allow you to see me as someone who deserves to be included, to be included at the boardroom table, to be included in decision making. You know, I do a lot of work on diversity and inclusion and leadership. And when we look at boardrooms in Canada, when we look at the political atmosphere for women in Canada, we don't see a lot of women sitting around boardroom tables, even in law. For women, as soon as you get to a certain level in your life and you have children, it's so hard to come back and be included, and you're kind of excluded because, you know, of certain things. Whereas who you are, your abilities, your strengths, your uniqueness, all those should factor in and say, listen, I am different, but I am able and capable, and that we should be embracing each other's uniqueness.
Well said, Victoria.
We have a comment coming in from, it looks like Jeff Karen. Dufferin County is a very diverse county, and it would be a step of accomplishment when Black people are accepted and included for who we are. Another comment coming in here from Tess. Thank you for the rich learning experience. It was such an inspirational talk.
Thank you, everybody. Lauren, we're going to turn it over. I'm going to turn it over to Alethia for our closing remarks.
Thank you. Just wanted to thank each and every one of the panelists for sharing their experiences tonight and sharing their stories and enlightening us. I have definitely left the session inspired, and I will be finishing the other 2 books that I don't have in my hands. So thank you. A special thank you to Orangeville Public Library, Shannon, Catherine, and Lauren for your support and partnership and making sure that we're not only able to celebrate these talented and amazing Black authors, but ensuring that we're able to now stock these books in the library for our young people, for all of our community members to be able to participate and read the amazing work of our authors. So thank you for that great work there. Again, Deputy Mayor Steve Anderson, thank you for moderating the session with me tonight. Of course, it's always enriching to have another author interview authors. So definitely made for an enlightening conversation, and it was a fun session. I definitely learned a lot about each and every one of the authors tonight, going through the books. And I look forward to the next chapter. So over to you, Steve, if you have any closing comments.
Yeah, just I saw some of the comments come in, a celebration of Black excellence, and I think, as Marcia and every other panelist said, that we have our stories that are 365 days throughout the year, and here is one excellent opportunity to share those stories and to inspire others. And so, as Alethia said, I was certainly inspired by the stories that I've heard. Again, I've read through the books that I have in my possession, and I'm very, very sure that when you get your copies of these wonderful books, you yourself will be inspired. And let this be a reminder that, again, you don't have to be somebody with a big name to write a book and share a story. So I'm hoping that some of you that are out there listening will put pen to paper and share your story. So the next time we have a session like this, you'll be part of this panel sharing your story and inspiring others. So thank you very much. And again, I want to say, of course, thank you to the library and Alethia herself and all of you for making this session really, really special. So we thank you for your time and have a great evening.
And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Thank you to all of our panelists and our moderators for a fantastic session. It was awe-inspiring. Thank you everyone, and have a fabulous evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great evening.